Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Ariana, joined by the wonderful Marco from Clutch Team Sports. Marco, this has been the most exciting off season I feel like we've had so far. I was gonna say the most exciting week of off season, but honestly, I feel like in general, it's just been like a pretty newsworthy off season, but especially this week with free agency going on. I know you broke some news, hinted at breaking some news that came out today. But let's start with the 49ers before we get into everything. The title of this stream is the 49ers free up some cap space. So maybe we could talk about how they restructured some players, and then we can get into the guys that they've added and some changes that are going on around, in the division, and how the Niners stack up.
And
How
I
do you
have a
feel about
question
that?
for you midway into the show. Is if the Niners are better or worse after the
Okay,
first
I'm
week of free
interested.
agency. So that's something I'll ask you later in the show.
Okay, I'm gonna have a caveat. I'm gonna have a caveat. Sorry, if no one could hear me, I try to scream anyways. But I'm I've been like moving and redoing my setup for a while, so that's why I have a different background. But I'll land on one soon. But first of all, the 49ers did by the way, what's up? Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're always in the chat. But 49ers restructured some players and added some cap space. Now, I think both of us talked about this last week and actually anticipated that they would clear up some room. They didn't restructure the guys that I thought they were going to. Instead, they kind of went after older veterans, which I feel like a little bit of a questionable move, especially when we just see what happened with Armstead. I don't know. Is that a strategy that, in your opinion, works? Which is basically asking these veterans to restructure their salary, pushing it to the end of their contract, and then cutting them and eating the dead cap hit. I know with the Armstead, for anyone who doesn't know, they put like a post June 1st designation on it, so they were able to spread that cap hit over 2 years. Is that a smart way of going about handling the cap? I just felt like restructuring a guy like Charvarius Ward, or if they do plan on keeping Deebo Samuel around, which I'm not saying that they should do that, but he's a little bit younger than Kittle and especially Hargrave, in my opinion. Just seems like a not the prime candidate. Kind of feels like the 49ers overpaid for him in free agency last year. Now his contract's really big. He kind of underperformed, and now they have him locked in for even longer, when I felt like the two of us were saying maybe they would want to move off of him soon. So I don't know why they would like guarantee more years on his deal. Why'd they
Hey,
go
that
about it?
man, that
Why'd they
man
do that?
Jose, that man Jose he's foul. Jose, you're hella foul for that. Hella foul. That's foul. You called me fat. That's foul. One, that hurt
Oh,
my
that's messed
feelings,
up.
Jose.
It's okay.
I thought we were friends, Jose. I hurt my
Jose's
feelings right now.
celebrating the Jimmy G signing. Don't worry. That's not true.
I'm
That's
just
not
messing
true.
around. Jose, don't be coming at me like that no more. All right, we're
Jose
friends.
owes me chips and salsa,
I do see that. I did see that.
and Jose, for anyone who watches my streams regularly, Jose and I had a bet that Javon Kinlaw,
Yeah, pay up.
and I remember I said I thought he was going to get signed for 4.5, and then Jose had me second guessing myself so hardcore
And you
that
doubled down on
luckily.
6. You went up. On Kinlaw, you went up. You had it lower and you went up to 6 because of Jose.
Yeah. And then freaking the Jets ended up guaranteeing him 6.9, and I think his total contract is for like 7.5. So just crazy. Ti amo, right?
Love you too. Love you too, Jose.
Aww.
That's my
Dude, have
boy.
you seen that all the Gen Z people, instead of doing this,
They go like,
they
I
do
can't.
like
That's just weird. That's
I
bro.
really like that you knew what I
A
was
heart's
talking
like
about.
that. Like I don't know. It's hella funny, but
I don't recall what she's talking about. Hi Ashley, you want to restructure someone you plan to keep. They won't restructure Debo because they want to get rid of him either this year or next year. Next year more realistic because of dead cap. I completely agree, Bundy, but my problem is that why do they want to keep Hargrave when he underperformed and his stuff? Like, it's exactly what happened with Eric Armstead. Maybe not injury wise, but just play wise, Hargrave is definitely not making, enough to justify his contract. And instead of trying to move off of him next year, they just extended him.
Yeah,
Weird
I
move.
think when
Same
you
thing with Kittle.
restructure,
Like you're saying really quick, he's saying Debo. Um, I don't know if you look at Kittle's playoff production, it doesn't seem like they've had a ton of faith. I do know, like I will say, I have less of a problem with extending Kittle because I feel like he's had a little bit of a resurgence with Brock Purdy, but
mhm.
just age wise, he's really struggled with injuries and stuff like that. I don't. He literally got injured in the last game of the year, so hopefully he's able to get healthy this offseason and stuff. I don't know. Just seems scary to target the veterans when you could have gone over. Like, I think extending Ward would have been a great candidate. Freaking giving Brandon Ayuk his contract would have opened up cap space because it would have lowered his cap hit. I don't know, stuff like that.
I think when you look at Hargrave's contract, like you're absolutely right. Like they're in a very similar situation they are with Arik Armstead, right? You have a player that he's getting paid too much for what he was last year. You have him restructure his contract because that cap hit's too big. You push it down the line. They're going to be in a similar situation where they might have to move off of him and cut him post June 1st next year, and they save a lot of money if they do that. Now, do they? Not too sure if they do, but it does make sense to create the cap space next year post June 1st for a quarterback that the Niners may have to sign on a very, very big deal. So you may have that. Like that's where I think that's where it confused me because they would have saved 20 million on Hargrave next year if they cut him post June 1st. I'm not too sure what that number dropped to. Maybe in that 15s range now. I'll take a look at it when the numbers are fully announced and everything on Spot Rack, but they lost a little bit of money leeway there. So to me, that was confusing for a player who's already in his 30s. They didn't learn their lesson from the Armstead situation. They're doing what they
Like I
just
feel like they're
did.
like, see, we did a good job. It's like everyone collectively agreed that that was a dumb way to go about business. I don't know why you did that.
So they do that. Kittle, I don't mind because I think he's one of those guys where he could potentially be a
Kind of a
lifer.
sneaky, really quick, it's kind of like a sneaky way of going about business because you're basically telling the player, like, oh, you're not taking a pay cut. You're not taking a pay cut. But then, like, expecting them down the road to take a pay cut. You know what I
Well,
mean? I
that's the
don't know. I
thing.
kind of have respect for Armstead, who's like, dude, no, like, I did you a favor by pushing it down. You can't now be like, psych, I don't want to pay you. Like, I
The
don't know.
bill always comes. The bill always comes due. It always comes. Like you could do everything you want to say, you know what, we don't want to move off of you. We really love you. Ain't no player in the NFL ever gonna take a pay cut. Like they do the restructuring because they get the money up front. No player's ever gonna be like, yeah, pay me
Lesser
less.
juice, but he only freaking took like the most minute pay cut ever.
They should have
I
cut
thought
him.
I thought for sure if they would have cut him, they would have saved like
5
6 million,
million.
and
It's
instead
like
they saved one, right? But my dad, who is sick,
super
and so
happy,
told
huh?
me he
Leroy's
might not be
super happy right
commenting,
now.
but he's listening, and I know right now he's like, "Suck it, guys, juice is
Yeah.
staying."
I
So
told you, Marco. He's like, I told you. But I would have cut him. Like it's still the 5 million could have been used for potentially a better corner. They got Yadam.
I'm so glad that you are trying to pronounce that because we're gonna talk about him later, and I was like, I don't know how to say that name. I was just reading Jose's article about him, by the way. Um, what is Gutierrez? Always lying.
Hey, yeah, it's Gutierrez. It's Gutierrez. It's not Gutierrez. It's Hueritas.
Waditas?
Yeah,
Jeez. Jeez, jeez.
he's
Wait, okay.
saying. I'll tell you after the show what he said. What he said.
So, but aside from the fact that they like, do you think that it's bad strategy for them to be targeting these older players and extending them? Why do you think that they chose Kittle and Hargrave?
I mean, I think they chose Kittle because they plan on Kittle being a for lifer. They want him to be a Niner for life. Um, and I think that's the when you have a player as good as Kittle, like you kind of do want him to be a guy that's around for life. Now, they didn't owe Armstead that respect because they didn't draft him. Remember, like he was a holdover from the
Hockey.
previous regimes, a Balky guy. So they didn't owe Kittle.
Now they're
They didn't owe.
reunited.
It's kind of and he got paid 17 million per year with no state
3
taxes.
years too is
Woo,
crazy.
he's loving life.
3 years for Armstead? No offense. Like Armstead's a good player when healthy, but when healthy is a problem, and to extend him for 3 years. I was like, all right, well,
So
49ers weren't
they
going to do that.
they didn't owe him that like loyalty. They moved off of him, which made sense. Now for me, um, it's I don't mind the Kittle one, Hargrave one, or I'm like, why? Why are we doing like first of all, I said last year that the contract and the signing of Hargrave, I announced that one too. I sent a text to Jesse and I sent to put it out there that Hargrave was their top candidate to sign on the Niners, but I don't have a source,
Look at
according
this,
to people.
Marco.
I'm a little
Oh,
petty
okay.
every once in a while. Um, but so what happened was I thought that was a bad signing. You're overpaying
By
for
the
a
way,
guy
this
who can
is
get
not
after
the
the
first
quarterback.
time. This is not the first time that you have been attacked for not knowing knowledge. I think you and I remember when like I think some of our first interactions,
It
you
might
were
have,
like, you
yeah.
knew what was up with Devo, and I was like, no, being a fan. Marco knows how to get under fans' skin because he has actual inside information. But as fans, we love the players, so we want to not believe what you have to say.
And it sucks because like so Hargrave, I thought that was a bad deal from the beginning, and when I had found out that
And
they
you
were
were
going to get
right.
after him, it was a bad deal from the beginning. It was a
And
very
they
good, talented
celebrated that
player.
like crazy.
What happened?
I said they celebrated that like crazy, and then you were right.
Yeah, like they're like, oh, he's so good. Look how he's first couple of weeks he's playing well. All right, watch him fall off. Fell off, crash hard. Right now they extend him like, oh, or restructure him. Oh, you're getting paid too much. We need to make more cap space. It's like, well, if he's such a good D tackle, you plan on keeping him around a long time. And I always saw that as a 2-year deal based off of his contract. I always said that's a 2-year deal, not a 4-year deal based off of the out. We can still get off of him, but I thought it was a bad deal then. I still think it's a bad deal now. You don't restructure guys that are in their already in the past their 30s.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense unless they're guys like you want to keep for life. You want to keep restructuring guys like Trent Williams, guys like George Kittle. But even then, when you continue to restructure them, you're in a similar situation to the Los Angeles Rams, who have a fat dead cap on Aaron Donald. Unfortunately, Aaron Donald, his situation is different because he retired, but now they have a big dead cap on him. So you're looking at everything, and it just sucks because they had to restructure him, or else they would have been screwed cap wise. They would have had like 35 million in dead
They
cap
signed
just off
they
of
signed
Donald.
Jimmy G though, so
That's all that matters.
problem solved. Problem solved. Problem solved. Problem solved. Do you think really quickly? This is a side note, but I thought that the Rams were having a good offseason, adding to their O line and stuff. Do you think that the loss of Aaron Donald really changes something when it comes to maybe how they're performing against the 49ers?
Um, I don't know because their defense is a really good young defense. So I think they have the ability to not necessarily make up for the loss of Aaron Donald because you don't make up for any up. Like you shouldn't even try to replace a Hall of Fame player like that. Like you don't. He's one of the greatest of all time. Don't try to replace him. Have a bunch of dudes rally around each other and have them play good football. Um, but I could see them making a big move for a defensive lineman or potentially corner, a big name corner. I could see them making a move because they just lost Aaron
Too
Donald, so
bad
you
they
got to get
didn't
better
just
somehow.
have a big name corner on their roster like a year ago.
He was aging. He wasn't what he was. Jalen Ramsey wasn't what he was, so they had to move off of him. Like if you look
Okay.
at him in Minnesota in Miami, got hurt
Yeah,
right. Got hurt. He
true,
played
true.
really well, but he wasn't what he was. But he's blaming it on Vic Fangio. So who knows what it could be?
We'll
But
see.
I think they've had a good offseason, even though they signed Jimmy G, even though they just lost Aaron
Aaron
Donald. I think they had a solid offseason adding that O line because if your defense gets worse, what got to get better? Your offense.
Yeah.
So their offense is about to be good. So
Big
that's
notes,
what's
Kyle Shanahan.
there you go. Taking shots at Shenny.
Really quickly, can I ask you, because you talked about Jalen Ramsey potentially regressing due to the coordinator. Do you think that there's something about bringing in Brandon Staley that could help Hargrave play better? Because I know, just I'm trying to tie it in. We were just talking about extending him. When he was in Philadelphia, he seemed to play a little bit better, and he was in a different style defense. Do you think maybe they'll be able to scheme things up and Hargrave will flourish more, or do you kind of anticipate the same level of play from him?
I think he'll play better because he's his second year in the system. So he kind of knows what's at him. But I think it's gonna be. I don't think it'll be much better. I don't think it'll be what he was when he was with Philly or when it was his last year with Pittsburgh when he was playing really good football. He's just not
Yeah,
a good run. He's never been a good run defender. He's a good pass
I remember
rusher.
that. Even when they got him, that was like a thing that they talked about.
So it's like I think he could get better, but I don't think it's gonna be much better. I don't think it's gonna like be so much better. It's like thank goodness they
Worth it all
restructured
of a
him
sudden.
and they could keep him another two. Like it's I think that's what kind of why they went. If you look at what they did with Jordan Elliott, Yetur Gross Matos, two good run defenders. Why? Because they understand their defensive line
We need to make up for that lack.
struggled
Yeah.
against so they have to bring run defenders in, and I think that's kind of their approach. I don't mind I don't mind Hargrave as a player. I just think the contract that he was given didn't fit the player. It was a bad contract. It was just a bad signing by the Niners in general.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now talking about some people that they did bring in, So Real Talk or So Real Sports Talk TV says, "Do you think the team will make Demo solely slot or keep him playing?"
Oh, we just lost her, but she was finishing her sentence. Or keep him playing both inside and outside. I'm not too sure. I think I personally would play Demo inside. I think he completes the 49ers defense inside. Um, I think he just brings a different tenacity in that nickel role. But I know he wants to play outside. I know I believe Ryan said that earlier on his show. Could be wrong, but um, I know Demo would rather play outside because outside corners get paid a lot more. So what does that mean? Why would you want to play nickel when you get just as good as outside corner and you can make that big money? So I think that's where he would prefer to play is outside. I think the Niners would prefer to play him wherever, as long as they have three corners on the field that could lock up. I don't think they necessarily see it as, hey, you're a slot corner. Hey, you're an outside corner. I think they see Demo as that chess piece. Hey, you're good enough player where we could pay you, but you got to play nickel for us. And I don't think the Niners truly care where he prefers. Look what they did with Jimmy Ward, right? Jimmy Ward came back as a safety. They didn't care where he played. You're playing where I tell you to play. If not, hey, there's a bench right there. Go sit down. So you can kind of see, look at it that way too. Like if they didn't care for Jimmy Ward, who was a bigger name and bigger player for the Niners at that time, to move off of him and have him play in that nickel spot, I could see them telling Demo that he has to play in that nickel spot. And I guess it looks like if you're on the Ashley Ariana show, you're on the Clutch Gene Sports show. I can't take anything down because I'm not a host. Um, so I guess we're rolling with just that comment. Well, then the Niners have signed a few other name players. They signed Devondre Campbell, linebacker from the Green Bay Packers. Um, does that make the Niners linebacker room better or worse? Drop your comment. Does it make it better or worse? Um, she's back.
I don't know what happened. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
I
coming over.
kicked you out. I kicked the whole thing. The whole stream kicked you out.
Did you get kicked out or it was just me?
Might have been you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, thank you for picking it back up.
So the
Like I
next
was telling
segment
everyone,
is
I've been. Yeah. Tell me what you've
we're
been.
I just talked briefly about Demo playing. I think the Niners don't care where he plays. I think Demo prefers to play outside. The Niners don't really care. They did it to Jimmy Ward, but I was mentioning they just signed Devondre Campbell, a linebacker, and how does that make their team? Does it make them better, or like does it make them better in the linebacking room, or what are your thoughts on that signing?
Depends on what you mean. Better than when it, like if Greenlaw was healthy, definitely not. But
Well,
better.
better in general. So once Greenlaw is healthy, does it make them better?
I want to say I'm more optimistic on bringing him in than some other people. I know that he had his All Pro season a couple seasons ago and has struggled. He's a little bit older. And that's something that I've noticed is kind of interesting from the 49ers this offseason. They seem to be targeting older guys more so than even before. I kind of assumed that they would be aging down. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why. I just thought with Brock Purdy extending Brandon Ayuk, I thought not only would they be looking to go all in this year, but I thought that they would kind of try to start revamping. And I'm sure that they will do that with the draft. But yeah, I mean, I had hope. I think we talked about this last week. I had hoped that they would bring in Aziz, but then when I saw how much he got, I was assuming he was going to get like 8 million. He got 11 million. So as soon as I saw that, obviously the 49ers were not going to be in play for him. So I don't think it's a terrible move. I saw he was rated pretty well by PFF, I think it was, or maybe it was the other one. I think it was like number 12 or something. So he had a little bit of a resurgence last year, and then he went on his social media and said that he's been utilized wrong, and whoever picks him up is gonna have a hell of a player. Now the only problem is that year that he had his All-Pro season, he was still with Joe Barry. Because when I originally saw that, I was like, okay, well everyone like Packers fans and Packers players have kind of talked crap about Joe Barry, but then I saw that the year he did do good, that was still his coordinator. So I don't know why all of a sudden they would utilize him different. So I don't know. How do you feel about the addition?
So the way I felt about the addition is we could look at all these stats and metrics that we want to look at, right? But I've always felt like when the Niners got rid of, like when Oren Burks' contract was up, the whole purpose of having Jalen Graham and D Winters is so they could play that Sam backer role. And with that Sam backer role, um, you're hardly on the field. Like truly, the Niners are in nickel majority of the time, or they're not in their base package with 3 linebackers on the field. So when they are in their base package, Campbell does make them better because the 49ers are going to have Drake Greenlaw back hopefully by mid-season, hopefully earlier. So if they are having 3 linebackers on the field, it makes them a lot better. But again, it also shows me that they don't believe in their young rookies that they drafted
No.
last year, right? Like it.
But I guess I'm not surprised in that. But they've done really terrible in the draft. Do you think that they'll do better this year or worse without Adam Peters?
Oh my
Because
gosh,
so far the free
you're putting me
agency
on the
seems
hot seat right now
free
because
free agency seems like it's going worse without Adam Peters, right?
how's Adam
With
Peters free agency doing right now in Washington?
I don't know, but I know that Eric
It's
freaking
phenomenal.
it's going phenomenal, and
Yeah,
then we
he's
have
doing great
guys
over there.
backing out last minute to go to the Cowboys. So I don't know. I feel
I
like
think
maybe because that was always a question, right? Like, how much does Adam Peters really do? Maybe he is important.
I think at the end of the day, the Niners are going to draft well. But the fact that you say that, one of these days, I'm gonna do a show and I'm gonna pull up the Niners draft picks over the last few years because
We
let's
should
take a
do that.
look at it.
It's
Let's
gonna
truly
be
take a look at it because
miserable.
when we're looking at the Niners, right? People like to talk about how great our team is and how great things are and how our Super Bowl window is still open. Our Super Bowl window could be much more open if they had drafted well. It's not. They have not drafted well.
They've got nothing from
Like
their
for,
draft picks.
for example, all right, I'm gonna do it. 49ers draft picks history. History.
Really quickly, while you're looking that up, Charles Curtis says this is the first show he's watched since the Super Bowl because he's still suffering a Super Bowl hangover. And then you're about to kill any sort of. He finally works up the mojo to consume 49ers content, and now you're
I'm
just gonna shit
sorry.
on them
That's
and kill
just
it.
that's just I guess
Uh,
that's but like okay, so 2017, this is since the regime, right? They took Solomon Thomas in the first round at pick 3, took Reuben Foster. Both of those pretty much misses. Reuben Foster, the player, was a hit. The person or the off the field, terrible. Killer Witherspoon, up and down career with the Niners, gone right away. CJ Beathard, gone right away. Wasn't a good quarterback, drafted in the 3rd round. Joe Williams didn't even play a snap for the Niners. George Kittle hit. Trent Taylor, very good player until he got injured. DJ Jones, hell of a pick in the 6th round. Peter, I don't know how to say his last
yeah,
name.
DJ Jones is good for 6th round. That's good.
Pita, they drafted him in the 6th round, edge rusher, never played really for the Niners. Adrian Corbett was a fan favorite, right? 2018, they draft Mike
I
McGlinchey.
felt like he was more of a fan favorite than good on the field. No offense to him.
I agree. I agree. But shout
Can
out
we
to him.
start whispering?
I'm not gonna say that out loud because I've had him on the show before. But shout out to Adrian Corbett, really good guy. 2018, they take Mike McGlinchey 1st round, Dante Pettis 2nd round. We could argue that Mike McGlinchey wasn't a miss, but then again, he didn't get a second contract with the Niners. So I'm going to count that as a miss. Like if you don't get a second contract with the team, that means they didn't
Yeah.
value enough. Then they Dante Pettis was gone before year 4. Fred Warner, Hall of Fame pick. That was they're probably their best pick they've had that year. Tavarius
That's the
Moore,
one restructuring that I'm happy that they did.
I agree. Tavarius Moore, bad pick. Did third rounder, pick 95. Didn't never played. Had ACL injury in college. Condavious Street, same thing. Never really played. DJ Reed was a really good pick. They decided,
I don't know why they didn't keep him. That was stupid on their
oh my,
part.
when they cut him to the waivers, I was
Yeah.
so mad. I was like, oh yeah, they just lost DJ Reed. There's no way to get him back. Gets claimed, goes to the
No.
Seahawks. Good years with them. Goes to the Jets.
Jets.
Great. Marcel Harris played a few games for the Niners. Played the season, played well. Julian Taylor never really played for the Niners. That 7th round pick, Richie James, we know what he was. So we haven't had much success, right? Nick Bosa, the following year, 2019, obviously they picked number 2 overall. That was an easy pick. Debo, hell of a pick. Jalen Hurd, completely whiffed on. Mitch Wishnowsky, a
He
punter
could
in the
still come
4th.
back, okay? I'm holding out hope. Me and Kyle
Could.
Shanahan.
He could.
I was being sarcastic.
Mitch Wishnowsky, 4th round pick. I think he's a good punter.
Legend.
I think he's a good punter. Dre Greenlaw on the 5th, great pick. 6th rounders, Caden Smith, Justin School, Tim Harris. None of them did anything for the Niners. The following year, 2020, took Javon Kinlaw in the 1st round at 14 when they passed up Tristan Wirfs. Bad pick. They didn't get a second contract with the Niners. Injured,
Nope.
had injury history coming out of college. Didn't do great. Had a great year last year. Now with the Jets. Brandon Ayuk, great pick.
Really
Colton
quickly,
McKivitz.
can we hold on Kinlaw? Because I think I had I know that Jose was talking about it, but I also had some other comments about him. And I just wanted to say, let me see if I can find it. Probably not because it was so far back here. But I think until okay, NY fans are mad about the Kinlaw contract. I read a few places that he got way
Yeah, he
overpaid.
got overpaid.
I agree that he got way overpaid. This is my
But she
theory
still
though.
gets her
'Cause
chips and salsa.
I still get my chips and salsa and margarita. Let's go. First of all, I'm a genius. Second of all, I think what Robert Saleh did in hindsight is kind of smart, right? Because they're giving Kinlaw like a one, like it should be like a 1-year prove it deal, right? And Robert Saleh has to do well this year. So if it doesn't work out, then like Robert Saleh will probably get fired. And so I think he was just like, all right, like I'm like if the season goes bad, whether it's Aaron Rodgers coming off his Achilles and running for vice president, whatever bullshit he's trying to do, or whatever happens, if the Jets don't do well, I think Robert Saleh's out of a job. So I think just bringing in his guys right now and getting them paid. You know what I mean? I think he's like, all right,
Could
I'll
be.
just because either A, it'll work out and I'll still be the coach and I got my guys paid. Or B, if it doesn't work out, hey, at least I got my guys paid. You know what I mean? And I was gonna get fired no matter what if it didn't work out at that point.
That's interesting.
You know what I mean?
So that 20.
It'd be like if you knew that you had like a 1-year opportunity somewhere and it was like make or break for you, you kind of are like, all right, well, I'm just gonna put all my chips on the table and bring in my friends because like we're either all gonna make it work or if it does, like if one thing goes wrong, I'm gonna be out of here anyways. So at least I help my guys out. I don't know if I explained that
No,
well,
yeah,
but
absolutely. I
when
get
I
what you're
saw
saying.
that, I was like, I bet that that's why they overpaid him.
I get
You
what
know
you're
what I mean?
saying. And then
Also,
that
I'm
20.
I'm sure that Salah thinks he can, help him if he is healthy. I think I have heard him say before, like when healthy, he feels like Kinlaw could be a good player. And the ironic thing with Kinlaw is that's actually the type of player that 49ers usually take a chance on in free agency, right? They like get these guys who kind of struggled or like didn't live up to their potential, but maybe have like shown flashes. And then they bring them in for this like 1-year reclamation project. The only problem was like instead of getting him from another team, he was already on the Niners. And the Niners usually don't overpay that much for players like that. They're like, we'll give you a cheap ass deal, let you decide if you can prove that you're worth it or not, and then you can go get paid next year by a different team.
So like just giving go. I'm not gonna go through the finish the list because I know we want to talk about other stuff, but like they have not drafted
Right.
well, right? They have
No.
not drafted well. So I think that's been an issue is they're having to put together
Money.
pieces in money out there when 2022 draft, which was 2 years ago, None of their players are contributing. Drake Jackson, Ty Davis Price is even on the team. Danny Gray, Womack, Zakel, Kalia Davis. Purdy obviously was the biggest, obviously the best player that they
Literally, wait,
drafted.
say that again. Start from the beginning for 2022.
So this is 2022. This is after. This is the year after they took Trey Lance at number 3 and they completely whiffed or didn't let him do what he wanted, whatever. Whatever the case may be, they missed that pick. It doesn't matter. So they had no first round pick. It was 2/3. So Drake Jackson, whiff. Ty Davis
Yeah,
Price, whiff. Danny
not
Gray
even on the
has
team.
not saw the field. Spencer
Don't probably
Burford,
not going to see the field, or like he's going to be like on the practice squad next year.
Spencer Burford plays, but up and down. Womack,
We want
they,
him to not play. No offense.
Womack, they don't play him. Nick Zakel has not played.
Why
Kalia
don't they
Davis.
play Womack? Why don't they like Womack? He like
That's a great
seems to have a
question.
knack for the ball,
I feel like he's the perfect fit for that nickel role, but I don't know. I'm very
right?
confused on.
And
I don't know.
anytime he's on the field, if it's filling in actually on that nickel position, or when he's been allowed to fill in for anyone, or even on special teams, he's a guy who's like constantly making interceptions and stuff and like getting the ball. Kind of like how Hafunga, who we can talk about how he's now not guaranteed a starting position, but you know how like he kind of has a knack for the ball. I feel like Womack is very similar and has showed flashes, and in my opinion, like has earned a chance to prove himself and to like have a few games to really show what he can do, and they just will
I mean,
not elevate more.
every year he has a great camp, great preseason, and then he just doesn't see the field. It doesn't it blows my mind. So like looking at Womack, that's interesting. But going back to like everything else, I know we had a lot of conversations. Is Brandon Ayuk going to get traded? He's one of their best picks since.
No,
You
no,
sure?
no.
I mean, he's rumored.
No. I think that Jacksonville put that rumor out so that they could bargain with Calvin Ridley.
Ridley was already signed.
He was already signed. Are you sure?
Yeah,
When it first went out?
yeah.
Because I think it was a Jacksonville reporter that put that out. Because I don't understand why would the Jaguars bring in Brandon Ayuk right now when they have, I think they have a lot of money going towards their wide receivers. Because remember
Christian
they
Kirk
paid
deal.
that one guy Christian Kirk like $22 million or something.
So like I don't know. I don't think it was where there's smoke, there's fire. I do think the Jags called and I think they asked, but I wouldn't say that they were negotiating or anything. Teams could call. Like that's
Yeah.
fine. But where I
I'm
think
sure the
there's more
49ers, if
smoke.
they were like blown away, would you trade Brandon Ayuk for isn't Jacksonville the 17th pick? Would you
So
trade
I
him
was
for that?
actually so I was actually talking to someone that I respect in the industry. And I was asking him like, hey, like what could the Niners get for Brandon Ayuk? I was like, could they get 17 from Jags? And he goes, does it make sense if they got a pick in the top 20? He goes, because it's such a deep receiver class. I don't see teams giving up that pick. He goes, look at
I
when
don't see, but the Niners they value their players. Like I can
a
see
little
other
too
teams
much
not wanting to
sometimes.
give up that much. I can see other teams not wanting to give up that much, but the 49ers can be stubborn, and sometimes that sucks like when they're stubborn about like trading Jimmy G. But I think that that would actually be beneficial with Brandon Ayuk if just they don't get a deal that is worth like I think Brandon Ayuk is I think 17 isn't even enough for him. I would want like 17 and a fourth. And then maybe you could
Well,
trade
because
them like a third or something. You know what I mean?
if you look at the deal that AJ Brown got, so this is the guy I respect a lot. Mentioned AJ Brown. He goes, well, AJ Brown got pick 18 and 101 in the 2022 draft. He goes, and it was a
Yeah.
pretty solid draft class. He goes,
Mhm.
but AJ Brown is also a lot better receiver than Brandon
I
Ayuk.
disagree. More opportunities to show that maybe.
But I think the way that teams view, and this is the way teams view them, right? Like it's for them. AJ Brown was a much better receiver, and this is a deeper receiver class. The class that in that 22 draft class, it was so top heavy. So if you look at the 22 draft class, there's like 10. I want to say he had in the first 10 picks, 2022 NFL draft. I want to say the first 5 receivers went in that first 10 picks. I could be wrong. I don't know why my computer isn't letting me. pull up the 2022 draft. But that's that same year that Chris Olave was in that draft. The same year.
We
So
had
in the top
Jets,
10.
Garrett Wilson, all that.
So 8 was London, Wilson at 10, Olave at 11, Jamison Wilson at 12. After that, you see a drop off, and then Treylon Burks at 18, and then no other receiver in that first round. We might see like 7 receivers go in the first this year. And then in
Yeah,
the
but
second
it's
round,
also supposed to be a really good tackle and guard class, right? So it's potential that like some of those good receivers will get pushed lower.
no, but that's why he was saying I don't see a team trading a pick in the top 20s, because they could get a receiver at that pick as cheaper rather than taking Brandon Ayuk and having to go up that first rounder and having to pay
That is
him what
something
he's expensive.
that is something that fans need to consider. Is usually when teams trade for a guy who needs to get paid, they end up trading less assets because you're trading and then you immediately have to pay that player.
We're
I
gonna
just
look
don't
at
think
Brian
he's going to
Burns.
go anywhere.
I don't
Although
think he's going
didn't I
anywhere.
think earlier, literally today, he was like getting on a plane and put it on his story. So I definitely think he's trying to like tease some interest. Bless you.
That's
But I
funny.
don't,
Thank you.
I don't see anything actually coming from that. I just think that these players like to psych some people out if they can.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they're gonna do what they want. But in terms of getting the fans riled up, like look at Dawkins from the Bills. Said he was leaving. He thank you Bill, thank you Buffalo, and then signs within minutes. Right, like that's just they think it's funny too. Like they think it's hilarious. But looking at things like I see the Niners more likely to trade Debo Samuel post June 1st than anything. Like the fact that the Steelers are in on him, the Ravens are in on him. The Niners may have suitors. So post June 1st, they may have a good enough deal to trade him, have them go compete in terms of what they're trading for him. I think it's a better decision to trade Debo Samuel than it is to trade Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk Ayuk's a certified receiver. He goes, he could do everything as a receiver. He goes, Debo Samuel, and I love the way he worded it. He goes, certified receiver versus Debo Samuel is that gadget guy. No, dude's like, I don't want to disrespect his receiving game, but he goes, the certified receiver is a true number one, and that's Brandon Ayuk. You don't get rid of guys like that.
In this offense, is Brendan Ayuk targeted, and does he get the opportunities that a wide receiver one would get? And will they restructure their offense to utilize him more if they do pay him? Because I agree. If you were starting a team from scratch, you would want Brandon Ayuk as your wide
Yeah.
receiver one. But under this Kyle Shanahan system, so far Brandon Ayuk just hasn't had the opportunities that Debo Samuel has. Is that going to change in the future? Because that to me affects maybe how much they're going to be willing to pay him.
But I think if
And
you don't
same thing
have
with
Debo
Brandon
on your
Ayuk. Like I think
roster,
it goes both sides. Like Brandon Ayuk's going to be like, I'm not given this opportunity, so I'm worth this. And they're going to be like, well, on our team, you're not. And he's going to be like, okay, well, try to be a team that would.
and the
But
thing
no
is too
longer
is
the
like with
Chiefs because they got Hollywood Brown. All right. So
that's
they're just
crazy.
going to run it back, baby. I
But
thought that
with
was
like
hilarious. Did you see how many notifications came out about that last night? They were like,
it was
the
immediate.
Chiefs got Hollywood
Three-peat,
Brown. I was like,
three-peat.
calm down, please.
But like
Maybe I'm just a bitter fan.
when you look at teams like that, like that's a big move because they didn't have a receiver, right? Like that's a big move for them. Like they didn't overpay him,
Yeah.
got him on a 1 year deal, $11 million.
They paid him
And
as
they,
much as the 49ers paid Colton McKivitz, just to put it in freaking yeah.
that's
Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy.
I don't know.
But like for Debo, if the Niners do trade Debo, Brandon Ayuk's targets are gonna go up no matter what, right? So like you're gonna have the more opportunities. You're gonna be
Yeah,
able to
you're like
show
forcing Kyle
how
Shanahan to do
true,
that. I
yeah,
see that.
how true of a number one he is. But the Niners didn't just they're not just moving off of Debo and everything like that. Like they obviously signed other players. So I want to ask you through week one of free agency, I want to ask the chat too. Drop your comment. Have the Niners gotten better through week one of free agency?
I like that. But really quickly, can we
Yeah, of
address
course.
Bobo's
Yeah.
comment? He said Chase Young will probably sign a 1-year deal with the 49ers, and then Chase Young will probably net us a third round compensatory pick for 2025. I don't think that that's true with the 2025
He
thing.
needs to get paid a lot.
I also don't think that he should stay with the 49ers at all. I think Chase Young had a prime opportunity to prove that he was worth a contract this year, and he had all the motivation in the world and did not do anything with it. No offense. I know he had a good Super Bowl or okay, decent Super Bowl. Um, but he had too many games where it felt like he wasn't trying. And I think you and I talked about that probably like at the time that the games were happening where coaches when you see a lack of effort, there's a problem. They'd rather you just be bad and trying than just straight up not trying. I
Yeah,
also wanted to say hi to 49ers media because he was in our comments and when I made a joke that I didn't know how to pronounce the player's name, he said that he uses Google Translate, and I thought that was really funny. I just wanted to shout him out because I saw him in the comments and I never brought it up because we've been going all over and my computer died and stuff. But as far as answering your question, for the 49ers, did they get better or worse? My issue is there's no way to grade them just on free agency because like I think myself and most fans feel like the most important aspect of this team that they needed to target was that offensive line. But I assumed that they were going to target the offense in the draft. Now, and I assume that because most people were saying like really good draft class for this, and the free agents that you're going to get from an offensive line perspective, you're going to have to way overpay them for like not as much value. If 49ers think back, like teams don't usually let go of guys who are really good, who are worth the money that they're going to get in free agency. Think about the Broncos bringing in Mike McGlinchey and everyone like laughing at them. Now, the only reason I do kind of second guess that a little bit is the Rams brought in some offensive line players. So maybe there were some guys out there that the 49ers could have got to bolster their elite, to bolster their line. I think it was when they originally extended McKivitz, I felt really poorly about it. And if it does prevent them from attacking that in the draft, I will continue to feel really bad about it. But if they're okay with paying that much money to a guy who might be a backup, which to me is a little insane to, give a guy a contract when you don't know if he's the for sure starter. But if they are like still going to target his position, then I don't think that's terrible because he can play on multiple spots in the line. So if someone gets injured, he's not like slotted in as a starter, or if he competes or maybe they'll do like the Spencer Burford thing with someone they draft where they'll platoon them in and out. I don't know. I can see myself giving it a higher grade once they really go after that offense and that offensive line. I think when we look at the team last year, I think that their offense needed way more help than their defense, especially like talent wise.
mm-hmm.
I know maybe there were some scheme problems, maybe just like disguise issues. A lot of when we look back to why did Kirk Cousins ball out against us, Joe Burrow before he got injured when he played the 49ers. A lot of it was one, the D line struggling, but two, they weren't good at disguise it. Like they didn't usually change post snap, and I feel like that didn't allow them to you know, take other teams by surprise. Sometimes it felt like the quarterback, even if they were under pressure, like throughout most of the year, the 49ers were getting tons of pressure, but not sacks because it felt like the quarterback knew what was happening. So maybe with a scheme change, I like a lot of the guys they're bringing back. It doesn't bother me that they mostly went at mostly went after defense because they had to bring in guys because they lost like 8 guys that were just on 1 year deals. So when people kind of are freaking out like, oh, they're blaming the defense, that's why they're bringing in so many defensive players. Like I think there's just a hole in that position now that they have to like you have to put someone there. So you had to get guys on the line. You had to bring in someone to come in for Dre Greenlaw. Do I wish it was a better player? Yes, but I also understand maybe not being able to get the most high priced players. I would give it a C right now.
But you have to,
And
you can't. So,
better or
for
worse?
example,
Oh,
better or
that's not a
worse. Yeah,
grade.
there's no grade, and they can't have stayed the same
See, I was gonna say
because
C
I
because then I was
live
like, it can get
because you could get
yeah,
away with that. So the thing
yeah.
is I had a coach who growing up, he always said you either get better or worse every day. You get better or worse every year. You get better or worse. The Niners free agency, did they get better? You don't stay the same because you age, you get slower, you have players who aren't going to be the same. So did we get better? Did we get worse in free agency? And I get what you're saying. Like you can't see the complete picture because we plan on seeing um the draft. But the thing is, the draft makes you could get better in the draft, but in free
Yeah,
agency
I'm
you
trying
could
to
get
think.
better or you could get worse in the free agency. Losing Armstead makes you worse. Them
Yeah.
signing a few signing and trading for a D tackle.
Yeah.
Um,
I think they did a pretty good job at making up for Armstead. The only like it seems worse because you're like there's not one like it's not one for one, but I think they did a good job about with bringing in like three players that can kind of if they stay like I think when Armstead is healthy, he's better one on one than one of the guys they brought in. But they brought in like three players that they can interchange that can kind of replicate Armstead's position. And if they're not injured, then that makes you automatically better because that's gonna be I think he missed six or 8 games last year. I know he's missed like 13 games in the last 2 years. So as long as you have players that aren't, your backups playing in those games, then in my opinion, you're better,
and then for the
right?
linebacker, I could say, yeah, you could say that
And then
they would get better
linebacker is confusing for me
because
because
I'm gonna give you
you're
a stat
definitely
real
not
quick.
better than like with Greenlaw, but like you're better than just having no one, which is what they had, before. So, and better, I do think, okay, what about this? Do you think that Campbell is better than Orrin Burks?
I don't know if he's better or worse than Oren Burks, but I would say worse. I'm gonna give you a stat real quick on Campbell. Okay, so this is for shout out to KP from Niner Nation. He tweeted out Devondre Campbell coverage stats in 2023: 76.5% completion percentage allowed on 12 yards per target. Dre Greenlaw's coverage stats: 63.6 allowed on 4.6 yards per target. That's a pretty terrible stat for Campbell. Like if he has to start for a good amount of the games, if Dre Greenlaw's out, they got worse. Is Campbell better than D Winters in coverage? I don't think so. Is Campbell better than Jalen Graham? I don't know. But it's like looking at the Niners linebacker room, signing that one made them worse, in my opinion. Like I think he's worse of a player than the young guys. They're athletic, they're fast, they could do a little bit more. We haven't got to
Do you
see
think,
him,
okay, I
but
have
I
a
think he's a
question.
terrible
Oh,
linebacker.
wait. But maybe they did get better because maybe those young guys will play. I think what will happen is they're just bringing in competition, and then whoever the best man is will win that. Or are you assuming that Kyle Shanahan will not make it an even competition, and that because they signed him, he's going to play? Because
Let's look
if
at the
they
when the number
compete
comes
in the
out.
off season, if they compete in the off season, and he wins it like
Fair and square.
deservingly, then I think that they got better. You know what I mean? But if not, then that's scary.
Because we
But
have to what the
maybe
thing we have to do too is look at the contract number when that because they haven't announced how much his contract is worth for that 1 year or what's guaranteed. If there's a good amount of money that's guaranteed, that could be an issue. To
yeah,
be
'cause
honest,
then
it
they'll
could be
want
an
to.
issue because, and I keep seeing a lot of people say like, the Niners were really high on Jalen Graham last year in training camp. They were so high on him that he got the dot on his helmet with the second team at times because they were so high on him. So it's like we were so high on
Why
him.
would you not? Yeah,
Why would he not be the next one in line? Like
but
so
maybe.
for
Do you think that he could still start? No.
I hope so. I don't want to see Campbell play. Like so Rich does a lot of work for the Packers. He does a lot of Packer
Packers.
stuff.
Yeah, I
He's
love just taking Rich's
he
stances. He
said
always
this was he said this was a desperate move by the Niners. And he watches a lot of Packers film.
well, it's because they fucking lost out to the Chargers, dude. Because they
But
don't have Adam Peters.
even him, it wasn't a big.
He was bad. He
That
was
was a
bad
worse
too.
signing too.
I agree.
It's like,
I
what are we
agree.
doing? I get wanting to get veterans, but at certain positions, you don't want veterans. Like I want athletic speed. I want linebacker. I want cornerback. I want athletic
We
guys
need
who
like
are
a
not in their.
thumper. I think the 49ers right now need like a hard hitting guy because that's what they have speed in Fred Warner. I guess you're right. I mean the thing is like no matter what from Greenlaw, they're gonna take a step back because he was speed and physical force. But when I look at what is Fred Warner missing, I think Fred Warner has more speed and maybe a little bit less tackle ability.
Oh,
If you're
absolutely,
trying to balance him out, you want to get a guy who's going to be able to hit hard. Huh.
absolutely.
Love
And I
you.
think for the Niners, I think they did get a little bit worse. And free agency. I think not addressing the O line when they could have. There was obviously a couple of right tackles in free agency, a couple of guards in free agency. There's centers in free agency. You tell me we can't upgrade at center over Brendel? Like that's where I'm like, wait, there's not centers better than Brendel?
I
There's
think
not right guards better than Feliciano?
I think it's Tom Jensen, writes for Fan Nation. He was pointing out some centers that he thinks the 49ers might try to get with that first pick, which I I feel like I would be disappointed if they went center because I really want them to target that right side. But potentially, he was saying that that just might be like the best player available. Do you think that that's something?
I
My
don't
my
think
I get scared because I'm like, is Kyle Shanahan going to actually is um is Kyle Shanahan going to trust a rookie to come in and start on that side?
I mean that's
This
a good
guy is
question. I
fierce.
think
He was like a dumpster cat in you're familiar with like NorCal area, yeah? He was a dumpster cat in Willits. And
like
we were like driving by
you just saved
and
him.
my little sister saved him, but he is fucking insane, dude. He like jumps through the air and like attacks our trash can and knocks it over and then plays in our trash. And I'm
It's
like,
where
this
you
is
it's
why
his
you don't
home.
bring dumpster cats into the house.
He thinks it's home.
He
But like looking
We're
at
like,
like
"We
the
saved you from the dumpster," and he's like, "No, that's my place to
that's my
be."
home. Let me back. That's funny. But looking at
So,
like at the center and guards, like so the guard some of the guards that have signed, I'm not looking at the guys that have signed for like 15, 17 million. I'm looking at guys like, for example, Nick Allegretti, who signed on a cheaper contract with the Commanders. I believe he signed like a few million per year, five
hey,
million per
Marco,
year.
who's the GM of the Commanders?
Don't know him. Center. They signed a center, a 26
Did
year old
they?
center, 26-year-old veteran center who is a really good center. 3 years, $29 million,
How much is
nine
it?
point seven million per year. But instead, they invested on their D line. Where, like, in my opinion, I didn't think their D line was an issue. You could get depth pieces. You could get cheaper center D linemen for cheaper, like Tim Settle, a defensive lineman who signed with the Houston Texans. Someone that when you look at who coaches over there, a familiar face, they got him on a 2-year, $7 million deal.
Texans are having a hell of an off season, dude.
So it's like looking at what was been
They're
out there
gonna
and the
be trouble.
prices,
Maybe they'll knock off the Chiefs for the 49ers.
and then D'Amico will beat us in the playoffs because D'Amico knows how to coach against Kyle Shanahan.
Damn. Be interesting.
I would hate that. I hope D'Amico
You don't
loses
wanna
every
see
Super
the
Bowl.
CJ Stroud Brock Purdy matchup, Marco?
I don't. I
Sorry,
don't want to
sorry,
see
sorry,
that.
sorry. I'm trying to I'm pushing Marco's buttons now. He's
But
like,
from
we could get through one stream without me looking like the bad guy against
I
Brock
mean,
Purdy, Ashley.
why don't
Come
we
on.
just trade? I mean, at this point, let's just trade up and go get JJ McCarthy, Drake May, or one of those quarterbacks. Why don't we just do that?
Can we end talking about Jimmy G going to the Rams? Does Sean McVay, because coaches freaking love, like coaches all have like their own little egos. Don't you think? And obviously Stafford is the better quarterback, and if he can play, that would be better. But don't you think Sean McVay would get a little bit like excited to have the opportunity to face Kyle Shanahan with Jimmy G on his team?
I
He
think
would
it would
want
be.
to
I
win
think
that
he would
game
if he
so
could
bad.
win with Jimmy
He would.
G.
I was gonna say something inappropriate. He would be very excited.
Say
It
whatever
would
you
be a
want.
really
Say it.
good day.
You can say it.
Well, I was just gonna say like he would, you know, piss his pants basically if he could win that game. Remember
But
that
like
game where he was celebrating in like
in the
the
end
end
zone,
zone? That would be that he would be doing that.
the
And then
crazy
the
part
Niners
is
would hopefully win.
poor Jimmy, man. Like I feel bad. Like I don't think he's a good
The
quarterback, but I
fucking
feel
thing is,
bad.
like, I think as a backup, like, as a
He's
sole
solid.
backup, I think he's solid, yeah. My dad has always said that, like, my dad has always been like, "Jimmy G is a perfect backup because he can win you a couple games, he just can't fucking stay healthy enough to be a starter." But, like, if you just need him to come in the only problem is, like, you think with the Rams, they're probably looking for with Stafford if freaking, McVay Sorry, I just saw that. Um, they're they're probably they're probably
That's a funny
looking
comment,
whoever
Tony.
has like an elbow injury and it misses multiple games, then you're in kind of trouble. But I
And the
think
thing
for
is
like just
too
a
is,
spot game, Jimmy G wouldn't be bad to
I mean, he
bring in.
wouldn't be
I
bad
was
either
trying to tell
because McVay and
Jose that
Kyle.
they should bring him back, but and
Oh,
you're right, McVay and
to
Kyle
the
are so
Niners.
different. I mean, well, obviously not now. I know because it would just cause a lot of
Okay,
controversy.
now I get why Jose was.
Circle
Oh
of
my goodness.
life.
Back to the Niners.
Sorry. Wait, I have a question. Do you think though that actually Jimmy G could flourish under McVay? Because McVay is so much more of like a like they're both gonna like go to the strip clubs together. Where Kyle Shanahan is like,
He's
dude,
mar-
I'm fucking
McVay's married
grinding
now. He ain't
film
doing
and
that. He got a
yelling at
kid.
you.
McVay got a
You
kid. He
gotta
ain't
get,
doing that
but
now.
he's like a bro, like he's like bro and buddy. You know what I mean? Kyle
Yeah, he's
Shanahan is like, rah, rah,
stuck up.
rah.
Kyle's like that coach who has he just stuck up, has something like you know what I'm trying to say. I'm not gonna say it, but McVay is loose. But I think Jimmy could do well in LA. They run a similar style system. McVay's gonna let him do a little bit more what he wants as a backup quarterback, obviously. I think McVay
Who do you
does
think the
cater.
49ers are gonna bring in for a backup, or do you think that they're gonna draft one?
I think
Let
they're gonna draft
Brian
one.
Greasy, let Brian Greasy have his chance to bring in the next Brock Purdy baby.
I think they'll draft one and they'll try to get a guy like Kadon Slovis, someone in the back end, 7th round, Carter Bradley, which is Gus Bradley's son, high IQ quarterbacks. Like I think that's something what they'll do. I don't think they'll go sign one. It doesn't make sense to sign someone in free agency as a backup quarterback when you just signed was it Allen? No, what's his
Brandon
wow, my
Allen, yeah.
Brandon Allen.
But
I'm
Brandon
not going
Allen
crazy.
sucks.
Okay, but the thing so what's crazy
No
is
offense to
so
Brandon
talking to
Allen.
quarterback coaches, right? Talking to quarterback coaches, I asked one of them, what makes a great backup quarterback? He goes, a great
Just
backup
good in the
quarterback
room.
is someone who studies for his starting quarterback, studies the film, and knows what's going on, so the starting quarterback doesn't have to worry and study as much. That I was like, what the heck? He's like, yeah. He goes, that's why a lot of teams love these guys. For example, when we see guys like Nathan Peterman still getting a contract, terrible
Mhm.
quarterback.
Same thing with the guy at how am I not Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins was like that. Remember? He was like going out there and like like if he didn't have to play, he would have been great.
Yeah, like that's what teams look for. They want someone who could truly come in and just know the offense, break down defenses, give the starting quarterback, hey, this is what they're going to do it against you, be in their head. That's what they want. They don't want someone who could. Starting quarterbacks also are kind of weird in the NFL. They don't like team quarterbacks that could potentially take their job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like that also plays a factor into it. Um, but that's how I feel. I'm not. But I think Jimmy to the
Who's
Rams is.
Carson
I think
Wentz?
it's not as
I thought
bad.
Is Carson Wentz still out there?
I heard his IQ isn't great. Like I'm not trying to put that out there, but like
I
I heard
know,
he
but
doesn't
he
study.
always
I
beats the
shouldn't say
49ers. He
his
always
IQ is
beats the
not there.
49ers, though.
I should just say I heard he doesn't study. That's what I should say.
I
I heard he doesn't
agree.
study.
And when you watch the games, it looks like he doesn't study. And I
Yeah.
also know that he's like always pushing his religion on everyone, but he does always beat the 49ers. So, and Kyle Shanahan, like when asked about Carson Wentz, literally praises that guy in a way that seems realistic. I feel like when you ask Kyle Shanahan about quarterbacks, you can tell when he thinks that they suck. He like
Oh,
always talks highly about Carson Wentz.
but I think I don't know. Like I wouldn't bring Carson Wentz in. I think that'd be terrible.
Okay. I
I think it
probably agree with you.
I think it'd be like because he would end up making the team as a second team quarterback, and we're gonna end up having to watch him play for at least one game.
Better
And I'm not trying to
than
watch him.
Brandon Allen.
I
I don't
think
know.
Brandon Allen is gonna be like I think he'd be solid starting a game. I don't think he'd be that
I
bad.
disagree. I disagree. I disagree with Brandon Allen. Although they did have Sam Darnold in. Sam Darnold is a is the Vikings problem. How surprising is it that Kenny Pickett is going to the Eagles? I can't believe that Sam Darnold why do people I don't understand his ability to keep getting money in the NFL. Kenny
That's
Pickett
backup
going to
money.
Eagles, whatever.
That's bridge quarterback money. He could
Yeah.
start for them if he has to. Begin when teams find bridge quarterbacks, what they want is someone with talent,
Yeah,
someone where
there you go.
they could play with.
And everyone has said Sam Darnold is like a good guy. Like he'll hold the door open for you. He'll study. He's like a bro. You know what I mean?
Yes,
He's
sir.
not
Yes,
trying to
ma'am.
threaten you. When he came into the Niners last year, he was like not trying to be like, I'm gonna take this starting job. Like he was like super like
Yeah, yeah.
supportive of Brock Purdy. That's what you want from a backup. I do agree with that.
Also, too, though, like it gives them, like for example, let's say the Minnesota Vikings are right? Like let's say they hit on Darnold for some reason, he does great. They look like geniuses too. If he sucks and they end up getting a top pick next year, now they have the top pick in the draft. But what's going to happen is the 49ers, or not the 49ers, the Minnesota Vikings are going to make a big move. And I'm saying this right now. They're going to make a big move for a quarterback, whether it's a veteran quarterback in the AFC, an elite quarterback in the AFC, or they're going to go and trade up and they're going to get to the top 3 picks in top 3 to top 5 pick to get that quarterback.
Everyone write this down because Marco knows his shit.
I'm just saying that's what's going to happen. Like they're putting it all out there, but there's a big quarterback that they could trade for. I don't know who it is, but there's a chance they trade for a big quarterback in the AFC, and that's where we could end.
Who's in the AFC that doesn't have a contract right now?
Oh, all the quarterbacks have contracts to be determined. Dun, 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 dun.
I'm excited. I'm excited to figure it out.
I will tell you, but not on air.
Okay, we're gonna end it because I have to pee and let my cat out that door. But really quick, can you give Christian your 30-second elevator pitch on Gross Matos from the Panthers?
The reason why they signed him, he's a good edge defender on the outside against the run. They could put him inside against pass pro. They could also do either or. He could pass rush from inside outside, kind of like a light version of Arik
You'll be
Armstead.
okay.
But he is essentially going to be just a developmental backup guy for the Niners. That's where I see him as.
Sorry, I don't know if you heard his crying.
Nah, you're good.
uh, um, I want to see the Tom Grossi vid on Carson Wentz. I love those. Do you see his? Do you know who that is?
No,
He's like a YouTuber and he puts on different jerseys and he's like this team's fans reaction to X, Y, and Z happening.
that's
And then
hilarious.
really quickly, Tony, I did talk about the Justin Fields rumor that was happening. Where would you bet that Justin Fields goes, Marco? Maybe just stay with the
Tough.
Bears as a backup.
That's tough. That's tough. If anything, if the Patriots try to trade back to get some picks, I can see him going to the Patriots. If they don't, he kind of has no home. Like he doesn't have anywhere
Patriots
to
don't
really go.
want. I feel like that you wouldn't. I feel like you would want to go after a quarterback though
But
right
they
now
also
because
have
it's
to
a
build their team.
new regime. Yeah, true.
But I do think like
Yeah,
they're gonna
and the
truly
clock kind of starts ticking once you like draft a
get a
quarterback. I
quarterback.
feel
Yeah,
like.
like yes, your
Yeah.
clock is.
Where if they just have Justin Fields, this can be a year where you're right. They're building up the rest of the team, and they can say, okay, we're gonna go after a QB the next draft.
But
So that
I
might
don't know.
actually buy the player.
I could see the Bears doing something dumb and like, you know what? Let's trade down a little bit and get Marvin Harrison Jr. and to keep him Fields. So who knows? I really don't know what the Bears are doing with Fields. I don't know. It's
Do you think that Caleb Williams will be all he's hyped up to be? Just assuming Williams is going to go to the Bears.
I think Caleb Williams is going to be a really good quarterback, but I don't think he's generational.
Yeah, he gives me kind of, and not play wise at all, but just like hype wise, kind of Trevor Lawrence vibes, where people were like, he's the next Andrew Luck. And then you're like, he's a good quarterback, but he's definitely not Andrew Luck.
Like I know a lot of teams don't think he's QB1 in this draft.
Oh, really?
I know a lot of teams don't think that. So
Who do they think?
it's
Give
a
us your
mix.
insight.
I've had people tell me they think Jaden Daniels, Drake May. We even had a couple people say JJ McCarthy.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's a very mixed situation. A lot of people don't think Caleb Williams is that slam dunk draft pick at number 1.
Interesting. I'll be interested to see how I always like watching the rookies. I remember even last year I was like randomly for like 2 games before it was very evident that they were gonna suck. I was like interested in the Panthers just because I was like, "Oh, how's Bryce Young gonna be?" And then I was like, "Okay, bad." Good to know.
That was really fast.
Shoulda
All
guessed
right.
that. Shoulda guessed that. But it would be fun to see a 49ers Texans freaking Super Bowl matchup, baby. Hey, hey, way too
Speaking into
early,
existence.
way too early predictions. Just kidding. But
Bold
do you think
prediction
the
starting in
49ers will
March.
make it back to the Super Bowl? We're gonna end on that. You were asking
We're
me,
not answering. We're not answering
you
that
were
yet.
asking
We're
me,
not
did they do
answering that yet.
better? Did they do better? Did they do worse? We'll
This is
wait till
why
after the draft.
this is why we're not going to answer that
Okay.
because it's going to give us a great show later in the off season, and
Oh,
where we can
well.
have a full conversation
Okay.
about
You're
the
right.
topic. Because if we do it now, it kind of wastes that conversation.
You're
Let's
right. You're
wait,
right.
and then
Look
so
at
that's why we're
Marco.
not going
He's
to do
such
it.
a good streamer.
That's why we're not going to do it right now. We're going to wait,
He's
and
a real
we'll
professional. Speaking of real professionals, everyone make sure to go like and subscribe to Marco's channel, Clutch Stream Sports, right there. Oh, tried to get rid of that and then didn't. Right there. If you're not already there from his channel, make sure to like and subscribe to his channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Ashley Ariana. Don't worry, I almost choked saying my own name. Every once in a while, you get really cool videos where my cat is in it. Sometimes the stream cuts off, so I'll try to do
every
less of
once in a
that.
while.
For every like and subscribe I get, there'll be one less me going black. So, you got to like and subscribe to keep my computer running, keep the lights on, the electricity working. Thanks,
So she could
guys.
up that Wi-Fi.
Have a great Friday night, everyone. Be safe, stay hydrated. Bay Area, it was kind of warm today. Freaking finally, man. I had some serotonin. So there you go. Have a good one, guys.